Thank you for joining us for this episode of DTNsights. I am your host, Renny Vandewege, General Manager of Weather and Climate Intelligence for DTN. And I am so excited to be joined by Adam Ricker this morning. Adam is UPS's Technical and Compliance Manager at DFW. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. So Adam, you're located in the Dallas area. Just want to learn a little bit about you to start today. Where did you grow up? How did you end up at UPS?
Well, I grew up in Richardson, Texas. I live in Dallas, Richardson is a suburb of Dallas. I went to college at the University of North Texas. At the time, I needed a job, and UPS recruited real heavily at colleges. And back then, $8 an hour was a lot of money.
Heck yeah.
So I ended up at UPS in 1988, and I've been with the company almost 37 years.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. So you went to school in Denton then, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. In Denton, met my wife in Denton, and we have two daughters, 28 and 24, that live in Long Beach.
Awesome. So a little bit about you've had this long career with UPS. What are some of the different roles that you've had as you kind of worked your way through the company?
Of course, started off as a loading packages like most UPSers do. I moved up as a part-time supervisor in our industrial engineering department for about a year, then went into operations as a part-time soup for a couple. When we opened up this new facility that we're in right now, back in 1994, I was promoted to a full-time supervisor. At that time, I was given the role of customer counter air cargo, which I had never done before, but learned it very quickly. And then I progressed into the load planning department, worked night shift, sunrise, day, and then kind of settled into our twilight load planning position for about 22, 23 years. Where I learned a lot from doing that. And then I've been a manager for 7 years now. 5 of that is the compliance and training manager.
That's amazing. So tell me a little bit about being kind of a compliance manager, what your day-to-day role entails.
Well, for the compliance and training, of course, the training side, we're responsible for all the new hires that come into the facility, train them to make them compliant to be out on the ramp so they can get further training by the management team. Then, of course, recurrent training throughout the year to keep everybody compliant. On the compliance side, we handle the auditing of the facility. I handle some outside locations that feed us packages or volume that I'm responsible for. And if we have FAA visits, I'm responsible for, being with them, making sure they get the information that they need. And then I do some other general items around the facility to help out the other management team.
Yeah, sounds like a really complex job. And of course, one of the things that can throw things off is weather, which is what we're going to talk a bit about today. So what at your facility and facilities, what are some of the more frequent severe weather events that can impact your operations?
Mainly in the DFW area would have to be heavy storms and lightning. Lightning is one of the big items for us. Specifically in the spring and the fall, we have to really pay attention to that to make sure that we don't have folks out on the ramp when they're not supposed to be out there, looking for operational bans, that type of thing. And then when it comes to the winter time, of course, we don't get a lot of snow and stuff in Texas, but we do deal with frost and typically ice. We'll get maybe 1 or 2, what we would consider a major weather event, where we get a quarter of an inch or half an inch of maybe snow or ice, and then that becomes an issue out here at the airport.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things we talk about in the weather world is even though those winter events aren't common, they're actually super impactful because they aren't common, right? It becomes a very unique challenge to solve.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
So I know in your world, keeping operational flow is really important, but worker safety is also a really top concern, especially for the outdoor workers, right? So how does UPS then ultimately prepare for those weather impacts? Do you use weather information to reduce those risks?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have the DTN weather that we keep up on our load planning department keeps up on their TV. Our air aircraft maintenance department also has access to it now. We have the on-guard weather sirens. We've had one for about 2+ years. Then our aircraft maintenance department purchased another one, so now we have better coverage on our ramp. So, with those items, and along with our meteorology department in Louisville, our low planning team that controls and watches that has pretty much all the tools they need to keep everybody safe and to watch the weather systems as they roll in.
Yeah. And do you guys set like rules or sort of an action plan in place where if you have different triggers, then you take certain actions? Is that kind of how you plan around that operation?
Yes. So if you take the lightning, for instance, in our manuals, we have severe weather plans, but certain distances from our airport, we take certain precautions. So our outer distance around 25 miles is when we start talking to the management team on the ramp, talking to aircraft maintenance, making sure everybody understands there could be a potential of lightning or storms rolling in. As we get closer into the 6 to 10 miles, we start taking more precautions, possibly closing aircraft down, securing equipment, and getting people ready to clear the ramp. And then, of course, when it gets 3 to 5 miles, the ramp's closed. Everybody comes inside until we're clear to go back out.
Yeah. When you have to communicate those out, what are some of the different methods that you use for communication for both ground flight crew in real time?
Well, we go by word of mouth first, which we use handheld radios. We communicate out to everybody to make sure everybody's aware. That's our first priority. And then we have the on-guard system for the sirens. So everybody is trained to understand the sirens, the lights, and that when we get to that point where we're off the ramp and the siren goes off and the red light comes on, nobody's supposed to be outside until we give the all clear to go back out.
Sure. How do you balance out kind of the short-term risk versus trying to understand maybe longer term and how you might make adjustments? For example, with climate trends, right? There's kind of more of a trend of more frequent storms, more intense storms. Do you factor that in at all in terms of your long-term planning and understanding how many disruptions you may get down the road?
Yeah, like in the wintertime, we look at weather trends to determine, what our DI season is going to be. We typically here at DFW run from mid-November to mid-April. We look at it. There might be times that we might back that up a little bit, depending if we start getting, early weather events, frost or something like that. Summertime, with Texas weather, it changes up and down so frequently, especially when you're transitioning from like spring to summer and then summer to fall. You may have 100 degrees outside one day and then it gets chilly the next day. And so you have to prepare your employees for that, making sure that we have everything we need to keep them safe, cool, especially in the summertime when it comes to heat stress, making sure that they're hydrated, that they get the training they need for that. We do provide what we can for them, water, freezer pops, stuff like that, cool zones. We really pay attention to the signs of heat stress and stuff like that.
Yeah, you said freezer pops. My daughter just got excited because that's how we handle her summers as well, right? But no, it's really important.
Yeah, we buy a lot of those.
Yeah, but I mean, heat safety is it's not one of the attractive or sexy sort of weather threats as a big thunderstorm coming in or a winter storm, but it's real, right? I mean, heat risk is real, and certainly where you live, that's a major impact.
Yes, especially when you're outside on concrete where it gets very hot, and you're, especially like our day operation that's running right now, they're going to be right in the middle of it all day long. And so you really have to take the precautions to keep them safe and to make sure we don't have somebody with the heat stress or heat exhaustion falling out on us.
Absolutely. When you kind of go through all this time and scenarios that have played out, do you have a time or two where you really feel like you used weather data to make an impact to truly mitigate a weather risk?
Here We kind of do. It's more of our network planning folks do in Louisville, who basically the contingency department. And I'll take winter for a good example. If they know we're going to have a severe weather storm come in, they look at that and see what the impact's going to be on DFW. Are they going to be able to get the planes in? We're going to be able to get them back out. Employees going to be able to come to work. Is the airport going to shut down? That type of thing. And it could be the same thing for severe weather. If we have high winds, lightning, that's going to be for an extended period of time. They'll look at that also. DFW's very cautious. So when stuff gets close, you end up with a lot of arrival and departure delays, which affect us directly.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's the balance of a thunderstorm, especially in the summer in Dallas, can just pop up, right? I mean,
oh, yeah.
Could form over the field, and you got to deal with that in the moment. Then there's other scenarios where you feel pretty confident 2 or 3 days in advance that there could be a real disruption. You can plan accordingly around that. But I imagine those scenarios, you've got to kind of play out differently.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
All right. So we wrap up with a feature we call Heat Burst, which is just kind of asking a couple interesting or fun questions as we round this out. So how many planes do you have landing a day at DFW that you're accountable for?
Can't get into specifics. I'll give you some background about our facility. We're considered a regional air hub. We can park up to 17 aircraft on our ramp. Our ramp's approximately about 50,000 square feet. We have a sorting facility that's around 330,000 square feet, and they can process around 46,000 packages an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was my second question. That's a lot of packages when you do the math.
Yes, it is. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Really impressive. Okay, what is the craziest weather event you've ever experienced, either personally or professionally?
Oh gosh. I would say at UPS, it'd have to be the time or a couple of times where we've had storms roll in where the winds are so heavy that it has lifted empty containers out of our storage area and flipped them into the parking lot. I've seen small single prop aircraft that we use from other vendors get flipped upside down because of high winds. So I've seen a few things, and then I've seen a winter storm that came through here and put, I think, close to 12 inches of snow on the ground, which that's very unusual for us.
Yeah. When you see those incidents with high wind, and I've done some storm chasing in my life, so you see some things, it happens so fast that you don't even you're like, is that plane just flipped upside down? Like,
yeah.
it's mind blowing, but the power of weather is unbelievable. It really
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah.
What is the coolest place you've ever traveled? A trip you've taken that you just always have to talk about?
I was a load master for UPS where I had the opportunity to fly in one of our aircraft overseas. So I've been to several countries. My favorite spot that I went to a couple of times would have to be Rota, Spain. Very pretty, old, cobblestone streets close together, that type on the beach. Is very, very, very nice place to be.
That's awesome. All right, so we're going to go back to Adam as a kid. What was the dream job that you had where you were like, this is what I'm going to be when I grow up? And like for me, I thought I was going to be a pro golfer. And if we went and played this afternoon, you'd understand why that didn't happen.
Gosh, as a kid. Well, it wasn't to be a UPSer because I had no idea I'd be here this long. It's hard to say. I know in high school, I honestly thought I was going to be a CPA. I don't know why I picked that as a career. I got into it in college and just decided I didn't want to sit behind a desk all day long. So took a different direction in college and ended up here. But I can't say anything specific as a child. I never dreamed of being a police officer or a fireman or anything like that. I think this is this way it was meant for me to be. And like I said, I've been here a long time and I love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, it's funny you said that about being a CPA. I was telling this story the other day. I thought I wanted to be a meteorologist my whole life, but my first major for one semester was accounting. And most people don't know that. people that have listened to this regularly will be like, what? And I wasn't meant to do that either. Figured that out pretty fast in my first accounting class, but yep, still went on to be a meteorologist. So I always find it interesting how we end up in our career, but to hang on that long is a really impressive feat, and you've learned so much throughout it. I'm also really impressed with how UPS handles weather and understands the seriousness of it, not just for the workers, which is really important for safety, but making sure everybody gets their package when they expect it, because all of us have been through that scenario where it's a day late and you're like, where is it? But it's all about safety.
Yes, it is.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us on DTNsights. It's been fascinating to hear about your career, your job, and the importance to weather at UPS, but really appreciate your time today.
I appreciate you having me on. It was fun. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.